Hare Krishna, welcome to our Sunday free-for-all, our Sunday Bhagavatam class. It is June 28th, 2020. So today we're going to begin with Bhagavatam 1:749. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, 1:749, Sutta Uvacha, Dharmyang Nyayang Sakarunam, Nirvilikam Samang Mahat, Raja Dharma Suto Rajnya, Pratyanandat Pacho Vijaha. So we read Prabhupada's purport. H.D.Goswami said, O Brahmanas, King Yudhishthira fully supported the statements of the queen, which were in accordance with the principles of religion and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and without duplicity. So let's look at this. Sutta Uvacha, Sutta said, so in terms of simple grammar, the noun, the verb here, the noun is Raja, the king. Pratyananda, welcomed. Prabhupada says here, fully supported or yes, fully supported is how he translates this. So Pratyananda, fully supported or welcomed them. Welcomed these words of, so Raja Pratyananda Bacho, the king welcomed the words. I thought I'd just tell you what Pratyananda means. That's the verb, what the king did. I think it's interesting to get, to greet cheerfully, to salute, in other words, show respect to welcome, to address kindly, favor, to receive joyfully. Nand, the word nand, that verb in Sanskrit, it expresses pleasure, joy, as in the word ananda, or Krishna is called Nandana, the joy of Nanda Maharaj. So it means this word pratyanand. Prati means from another person, to receive joyfully or thankfully, to accept willingly. So the king, Yudhishthira, accepted willingly, received joyfully, thankfully, saluted, welcomed, vacho, the statement. So that's going into a little detail here. So the king, Raja, welcomed, was thankful for the words, Rajnyaha, of the queen. King welcomed the words of the queen. Dvijaha, in the last line, means that Sutta is addressing the sages, O twice-born people. And the words, which were dharmyam, in accord with dharma. I think this also expresses how Yudhishthira found these words. Nyayam, just or reasonable. Sakarunam, merciful. Nirvilikam, without duplicity. In other words, Draupadi had no other motive. She wasn't saying that because she wanted something else or wanted to avoid something else. She was speaking from her heart. Nirvilikam. Samang, sort of balanced, and Mahat, glorious. Prabhupada translates glorious or great. They showed her own greatness of spirit. So Yudhishthira has accepted that, but it's not going to be that simple, as we're going to see. So then Nakula Sahadevascha, and it's interesting because Yudhishthira, so first let's see what happens. So Draupadi has allies here. Yudhishthira, the king, he welcomed her words. He was happy with her words. And then Nakula and Sahadeva also, Yuyudhana, which is surprising because he was one of the great Yadu warriors, one of the few survivors of Kurukshetra, just a super warrior, and yet somehow or other he went along with it. Dhananjaya, Arjuna, Bhagavan, Devaki Putra, and the Lord, son of Devaki, Jai Chanye Jascha Joshita, and other people there, and also other ladies, Jascha Joshita. So it seems like a consensus is building for Draupadi's statement. And then Tatra Aha Amarshito Bhimas, but Bhima is angry. Bhima doesn't accept it. Amarshita, he can't tolerate this. And Tasya Shayan Badhaksmrita, he says that speaking about Ashwatthama, killing him is best according to authorities. Is better. It's better to kill him. Smritaha, according to authorities. Smrita, Prabhupada translates recorded, literally means remembered, but it refers to smriti, in other words, the law books. And so to say something is smritaha is a short way of saying that in the Dharma Shastras, that's what it says. So Bhima says, no, it's better to, according to authority, it's better to kill him. Nabharatur, not for his master, Duryodhana, not manas charate, not in the interest of his master, nor in his own interest. Johan Suptan Sisun Pratai, for no good reason, without any purpose, he killed these young sleeping boys. Tatra Hamarsito Bhimas Tasya Sayan Badaksmita Nabharatur, not manas charate. Johan Suptan Sisun Prata. Supta means sleeping. So Bhima is adamant, he's furious, and that Bhima cannot tolerate this. The word amarshita, which describes Bhisma's state of mind, is, sorry for this little delay here. But anyway, that's what it means. He's indignant. He was indignant. He was angry. Just he's outraged. That's really what amarshita means here. He's angry. He's outraged. He's outraged at this idea. So. And he's useless. There's no good. The battle was over. He says, Brita is useless. It had no purpose. The battle was already over. It wasn't gonna do anything. It was just for nothing. He killed these boys. So we have a problem here. Bhima not at all happy with this. So Nishamya Bhima Gaditam. Nishamya hearing Bhima Gaditam, Bhima's statement. Draupadyascha Chaturbhuja, and Draupadi's statement, and here Krishna is referred to as Chaturbhuja, forearm, because he's got two pure devotees who have very different views, and so he's going to need all four arms, as Prabhupada says, to kind of sort this out. So Alokya Badanang Sakyur, and glancing at the face of his friend. In other words, Krishna looks over to Arjuna. He gives Arjuna a look like, you know what to do. Idamaha Hasandiva, and as if smiling or laughing, almost which is very interesting. Hasandiva, Prabhupada says, he began to speak as if smiling. He said this, Idamaha, he said this. Hasan, like Hasya Rasa, can mean smiling, it can mean laughing, but so we assume he's not laughing because Draupadi is obviously grieving, but he's got sort of this smile on him, like he knows something, he knows what he's going to do, and he glances at Arjuna because Arjuna also is going to understand that they're such close friends. Krishna and Arjuna are such close friends that Krishna just glances at him and Arjuna will actually understand the point. So then Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So now Lord Krishna speaks. Brahma Bandhur Nahantavya. he says a Brahma Bandhu, which means a friend or relative of a Brahmin. He's saying that obviously Ashwatthama is not a qualified Brahmin, but he's in a Brahmin family. And so therefore, Nahantavya is not to be killed. Nahantavya. Brahma Bandhur Nahantavya. Atatayi Badarhana. But an aggressor deserves to be killed. So we have conflicting moral principles here. We have conflicting moral principles. And so then Krishna says, Maya Eva, and indeed by me, Ubayam Amnatam. Both principles, Amnatam, are authoritative. I consider these are both dharma. Don't kill a Brahma Bandhu, don't kill, someone in the Brahmin order, and kill an aggressor. And these are both legal principles, and I personally accept both of them because they're both coming from authority. So then Krishna, clearly speaking to Arjuna here, says paripahi, so preserve or protect. Prabhupada translates paripahi as carry out this ruling, anushasanam. Prabhupada translates it as rulings, it's singular. So Arjuna, that being the case, that we have two conflicting legal principles here, of course, talking about sacred law coming from ultimately from God. So he's saying we have two conflicting principles. So paripahi actually means to protect. Pa means to protect, like Pala, Gopala, the cow protector, the cowherd. And Pahimam, we pray to Krishna, 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 Pahimam, protect me. So that's what the word pa is here, to protect or defend. And pari is interesting because pari means, as in English, peri, like perimeter, means around. So it's in Sanskrit, to put this prefix pari forward, it means like completely or carefully. So like all around. So pari pahi means protect fully, anushasanam, the ruling, the legal judgment in a situation where there are conflicting rules. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting conversation here. So Krishna says, Atai Vadarna, Mayaivo Vayamanatam Paripagyanam Shasanam, Kuru Pratishutang Satyam. Literally, make your promise true. Keep your promise. Pratishrutam is a promise. And Kuru, in other words, like do your promise. Like make your promise satyam, true. Make your promise true, which is a way of saying keep your promise. You have to do what you said you were going to do. Make your promise true. Yat tat san tvayata priyam, the promise you made when you were comforting your beloved. Because remember, Arjuna said to Draupadi, I will comfort you more when you are standing on the head of this person. In other words, I'm going to cut his head off. So keep your promise, make your promise true, the promise that you made when you were comforting Draupadi, your beloved. Priyangcha Bhima Senasya. And you should do what is pleasing to Bhima and to Panchali, your wife, and to me. In other words, you have to, so obviously Krishna is giving Arjuna what seems to be an impossible order to show Arjuna's intelligence and greatness. So here you have Bhima and Draupadi with completely opposing positions. And then you have to understand Krishna's position, which he hasn't stated, but Krishna's saying, you know what I would do. So it's very interesting. There's such an intimate friendship. Krishna's actually telling Arjuna, you know what I would do. And you've heard what Bhima said, and you've heard what Draupadi said, and you have to keep your promise. You've got to do all of that. So, I mean, any ordinary person would be absolutely dumbfounded by all this. But Arjuna, because he's so intelligent and knows Krishna so well, he actually knows what to do. He knows what Krishna means. That's how close they are. Because they've been doing this stuff together for many lives, as Narayan. So Sutu Vacha, Arjuna Sahasagyaya, Harer Hardam Atasina. So it's very interesting. So Arjuna Sahasa, all at once, suddenly or just immediately, Agyaya, recognizing, Harer Hardam. Hardam comes from the word Hrid, heart. So it's like understanding what's in Krishna's heart, what he means. The word harda here comes from the word hrid, heart. And of course, obviously, cognate with English word heart. So harda in the dictionary means relating to or being in the heart. And also, therefore, can mean meaning. It can mean love and kindness, like in the heart, but it also can mean meaning, intention, purpose. So recognizing Krishna's meaning, recognizing Krishna's intention, his purpose. It's important. The reason I go through all these definitions, because the Sanskrit word, there's not one English word that really gives you all that's in the Sanskrit word. So by hearing more English words, it gives you, I think, a much clearer idea of what Krishna is actually saying. So in this case, Arjuna, what the Bhagavatam is saying. So Arjuna recognizing Krishna's meaning, his intention, his purpose. In other words, in his heart, harda means that Krishna didn't say it, but it's really what Krishna's thinking and feeling. It's really what he means. So recognizing that, manin jahara murdhanyam. Arjuna, vijasya sahamurdhajam, took away, just sort of removed the Ashwatthama's crown jewel, is literally his head jewel, because Arjuna had this, Ashwatthama had this jewel, probably on a headband or something, a diadem. He had this jewel on his head that he was very proud of. And Arjuna Jahara, he removed it from the twice-born one, together with his murdhajam, his head born. So what is born out of your head? Hair. So murdhajam, head born, is a way of saying hair. It sounds good in Sanskrit. Sounds a little more awkward in English, but in Sanskrit it sounds fine. So manin jahara murdhanyam, so he removed the jewel on his head along with the hair on his head. Manin jahara murdhanyam vijasyasa murdhajam. And so let me read one more verse, then I'll explain to you, like, coming from modern culture, you might say, like, what? That's the punishment? You give him a sort of a goofy haircut and take the jewel off his head? I mean, how is that a punishment? Which might be a reaction. So then he drove him out of the camp. But so first I'll say a word about this, because the Bhagavatam is going to say that is actually the way you kill a Brahmin, not by killing his body. In this ancient culture, and to some extent still in certain parts of the world, including India and Muslim countries, there's a type of bodily symbolism, anatomical symbolism, which is extremely important in terms of people's honor. I mean, to give an example, the lowest part of the body, and often the part of the body most likely to become dirty, of course, are the feet. And so if you think about it, when it says Bande Guru Sri Charanara Vindam, I honor the feet of the Guru, it doesn't mean that a faithful disciple becomes a pedicurist. It doesn't mean your devotional service necessarily is to literally take care of your guru's feet. It's symbolic for most devotees. I mean, some devotees actually may massage or the guru's feet or whatever, but it literally means, not literally, it means that to serve the guru in the most humble way, because the feet being, in a sense, the lowest part of the body, To serve the feet is a way of saying to serve with all humility, serve the Guru with all humility. And if you think about it, feet, the lotus feet, I mean, it's just all over our scriptures, the songs we sing. It's a big deal. It's the feet of the Guru, the feet of Krishna. It's a big thing in the Vaishnava culture. It's everywhere. And my point is that the head is equally important, but in the opposite way. So that, for example, as I pointed out many times, the Bhagavatam five times mentions the offense to Draupadi in the gambling hall, and all five times the Bhagavatam says the offense was touching her hair. Touching her hair. Touching Draupadi's hair in an insulting way was a capital offense. It was, you get the death penalty for that. I mean, think about that. Because Krishna himself said that, Draupadi said that, to these men, you will die for this. And Krishna said, yeah, they will die for this. I'll personally see to that. So imagine something which is inconceivable in the modern world, that the death penalty for touching the hair on the head of a most respectable lady. That was a death penalty. So obviously this sort of this bodily symbolism was taken extremely seriously. I mean, just to give an example, if a disciple just walked up to Prabhupada without permission and put their leaned on Prabhupada's head. I mean, you don't want to say it, but it would be like a horrible, unthinkable offense. Or the deity, just go up and sort of lean on the deity's head. It would be considered terrible offense. So even by devotees today. So in the case of Ashwatthama, he was a so-called Brahmin, not a real Brahmin, of course. Just chopping his hair off and cutting off his jewel was almost like a mortal offense. It was like killing him. And of course, this is all culturally constructed. It's just, this makes sense within a particular culture. But that was the culture. And Ashwatthama took it as like being killed. And of course, Krishna did the same thing with Rukmini's brother, when he offended Krishna. So vimucha rasanabadham, so releasing Ashwatthama, who was rasana, means ropes, who was bound with ropes, so releasing him from, untying him, bala hatya hata prabham, Ashwatthama, whose prabham, his effulgence, his glow, was destroyed by killing these young boys. Bala hatya means killing these boys, had killed his. Essentially, it's actually the same word, hatya and hatta, if you have this verse in front of you. By killing the boys, he had killed his own effulgence, his own brilliance in life. He basically just self-destructed, tejasamani nahinam, and deprived of his prowess, deprived of his splendor and his jewel, in other words, the whole splendor of his life, all the austerities he had performed, all his Brahminical studies, everything serving his father, his guru, all the accumulated, like Prabhupada used to say, his disciples were bright-faced, all of this accumulated brilliance, it was all gone. And Shibiran Yapayat, Arjuna drove him out of the camp, drove him out like an animal. And he's just, he's finished. So then the Bhagavatam says, and we'll take questions right after this. So if there's any questions, they should be sent in. Vapanam, so cleaving hair is like, vapana means cutting the hair off. Dravina danam, taking the wealth. You just take so cutting someone's hair like that, taking their property, their wealth. stana niryapanam tata, and also driving them out of a place. Esha hi brahmabandhu nang vadho. This is the killing of a brahmabandhu. This is the procedure to kill someone, a brahmabandhu. Nanyosti daihika. And there is no other. You don't, daihika means from the word deha, body. So there's no other bodily killing, literally. There's no other bodily killing. You don't kill the body, but this is the way you kill people in the Brahmin order. And the people in the Brahmin order, and you have to remember this, took it as something like being killed. They also took it that way. So again, you have to really take, at least in your mind, take very seriously how this culture is operating to understand what's going on here. So we'll stop there and we'll go to the questions. Let's see. Each of Pandu's sons had unique personalities and different qualities. Were they always in agreement with Krishna? They were like cousin brothers. They were friends. Of course, the younger Pandavas were like younger brothers. And in that culture, they had a lot of respect. But they would discuss things. Because Arjuna talks about that in the Gita, that forgive me when he sees universal form, he really understands that Krishna is the Almighty God. He says, forgive me because we were such close friends. I would, joke with you and say things. And their relationship was centered on political affairs. They were involved constantly in these political discussions about kingship and about what to do with the Kurus and Duryodhana. And so they would have discussions, and Krishna would say something and someone else would say something, and they'd maybe discuss it or have a little debate about it. So they were like brothers, and they would, and Krishna was engaged in that pastime. He would act like, so to speak, one of the boys, although he was Krishna. And so ultimately he had the last word. But for example, Krishna and the other Pandavas wanted Yudhisthira to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. And Yudhisthira didn't want to do it because he was humble. But finally Yudhisthira agreed. So they talked about things together. But they certainly didn't disagree on serious spiritual issues. Okay, translating from Portuguese, why did Krishna let the Pandavas go through so many tribulations if he could have reestablished Dharma in the simplest way, for example, avoiding the curse of Pandu or the birth of Duryodhana? Well, because that would not have satisfied Krishna's purpose in coming. Krishna had two purposes, or you could say two aspects of it. One purpose was, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita, to reestablish Dharma and to stop adharma. But the other purpose was to create an amazing historical theater, to exhibit all these amazing activities which would interest people. I mean, for example, if Krishna, let's say, as this question suggests, what if Pandu had not been cursed and he just reestablished Dharma? And then he had his sons and they kept Dharma going and the Asuras were defeated. That would be a very short story. There were demons in the world. Pandu became king, defeated the demons, the end. That would not, where's the story really? It would just be one of hundreds of saintly kings mentioned in the Shastra, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, where there was a saintly king and he defeated the bad people and everyone was happy in the kingdom. So the whole purpose of Krishna coming is to create a blockbuster story. Kunti says that in her prayers, that Sages say that you came to this world so that in the future, people would be talking about you, and they would be. So that's Krishna's strategy, to attract people to God, to Krishna, by giving them a better movie, a better story. And so, and of course, the Pandavas, being pure devotees, they didn't suffer the way ordinary people suffer, but it's a great story, and that's why it's so popular. So that was also Krishna's purpose. Due to conditioning in our Western culture, there are so many aspects of Vedic culture that we are unaware when we are being offensive, like stepping on ants, etc. What is the best way to beg forgiveness for things we are unaware that we are doing daily? I would say that devotees are not doing so many bad things unaware. But of course, those who don't understand Krishna consciousness do lots of things that they shouldn't be doing. Yeah, I mean, intention does matter. Intention does matter. And so if you're doing your best and trying to follow Krishna consciousness as you've received it, then Krishna understands. I don't think it's a big problem. If we have sincerely tried to understand what our culture is. As far as all the rituals, that's not a big deal. I mean, what you have to understand is there are really two parts of Vedic culture, something which devotees often aren't aware of. And that is people that lived in cities or villages, and they tended to perform a lot of rituals. They tended to perform a lot of rituals, and there's this mantra for this and that mantra for that, and all kinds. I mean, things which are not directly moral issues. Like, for example, stepping on an ant, the example given here. I mean, unnecessarily or intentionally killing another creature is a moral issue. It's a very serious moral issue. But let's say, for example, we don't know that in Vedic culture, some people perform this or that ritual or perform this or that mantra. That's not directly a moral issue. So you have these people who perform lots of rituals, normal people, but then you have sages that are kind of tired of all this, and they thought, let's just go to the forest and have a simpler life and just focus on what's important. And forest, of course, one word for forest in Sanskrit is aranya, like Vrindaranya. And so these people composed books, which actually were the forerunners of the Upanishads, and also include the Upanishads. Aranyakas just mean the forest books, and then those, of course, develop into the Upanishads. So if you look at the Upanishads, not so many rituals, but more focused on knowledge. So there were people in Vedic culture who did want to focus on philosophy and knowledge and not on all kinds of rituals and millions of rules. So, so again, if you are a sincere devotee, I'm not sure that you are committing a lot of offenses in your daily life. And of course, not killing innocent creatures. It should be common sense, although it's not for most people in this degraded age. So I will translate from Spanish. You repeatedly instruct that we should not sort of turn off our brain, and we should not turn off our brain, stop thinking, and that we should learn scriptures in a rational way. So would it be bad that some of your disciples that are scholars make a critical analysis of some of my statements and declarations where you support yourself with certain ideas or theses that invite an update, certain affirmations about social issues that Prabhupada said, because it is common that other disciples who are progressive, other disciples of yours who are progressive, attack with anger and insults and condemnation of those who try to understand your, I guess, your statements are trying to get things up to date. Anyway, I hope that people are not attacking with anger and insults. I mean, I think as devotees, with mutual respect, we should be able to discuss things. And it's really important that we understand Shastra scriptures in a reasonable way. Krishna emphasizes being reasonable in the Bhagavad Gita. He actually emphasizes it. Look at all the places where he uses the word buddhi. So among sincere devotees who are not, their intention is not to offend or to insult, but simply trying to understand, we should be able to have calm, reasonable discussions. That's what Brahmins did. They would discuss things. So last question, can you please expand upon your comment about not taking the notion of serving the lotus feet literally? I think it's pretty simple. You don't have to give the guru a pedicure. One time I massaged Prabhupada's feet actually, during the last few months of his stay here in this world. And anyway, for various medical reasons, someone had to massage his feet and I was there, so I was asked to do that and I did it. But that was the only time I actually did that. The only time I would say physically I served his feet, but I tried to dedicate my life to serving his feet. So that's a simple point, I think. I've been told there's only one more verse in this chapter, so we'll just finish this chapter up. Let's see. Okay, this here, last verse of this chapter. Putra shokantura sarve, pandavasa krishnaya, swanang ritanang jet krityang chakur nir haranadi. So, we'll tell you this, tell you what this verse means. It's just one word I thought I'd want to get a little closer look at here. So the verse is Putra Shokatura Sarve. So all of them. So Ashwatthama is gone now. Sarve Pandavasa Krishnaya. So all of the Pandavas with Draupadi, Krishnaya means with Draupadi, grieving, disturbed with grief for their sons. Putra Shokatura Sarve Pandavasa Krishnaya Swanang Ritanang Jat Krityang Chakra. They did that which was to be done for their own dead. Rita, you understand the English word, like the English word mortal. Like mortal combat means combat in which people die. Mortality. So Ritanam, so their own family who had died, they did what was to be done. In other words, they did the proper duties and rites, what was to be done, krityam, and they did what was to be done, including or beginning with taking out the bodies, because they're actually, you have to honor and take the body away. There are these dead bodies, and so it's kind of graphic. Nirharana means taking out in Sanskrit. Nirharana, it especially means taking out a body and a dead body, and adhikam, etc. So, having grieved and being very, or said, all of the Pandavas, of course, Krishna's there, and Draupadi, now they just have to be practical. There are funeral considerations. The bodies have to be properly taken care of, and there are different funeral rites that have to be performed. So now they have these very, very sad duties. So that's the end of this chapter. And one more question came in. I'm translating from Spanish. What is the relation between perfect morality represented by Sri Krishna and his teachings and punishment, particularly severe punishment to Ashwatthama, punished with a long and painful life. Normally, one who attacks the devotees or the Lord in the Bhagavatam ends up dying. Why was this different? Well, because he was a Brahmin, so-called Brahmin, Brahmabandhu. Because the other cases where people are killed, they're normally Kshatriyas who are also fighting. So aggressors who are actually, so I mean, obviously on the battlefield, they would have killed Ashwatthama, and they tried to kill Ashwatthama. And there's all these rules. It's right in the Bhagavatam, the first canto, that you do not kill an enemy who has no weapons, or an enemy who is not fighting back, or who's afraid. And so Ashwatthama, who was really afraid and disturbed and had no weapon, so he checked a lot of boxes, so to speak. I mean, for various reasons, according to Kshatriya Dharma, you can't attack someone in that situation. Although if he would have been in a battlefield and fighting, they would have killed him. So basically, Krishna and his devotees followed the rules, and that's what Krishna explained. So thank you all very much for listening, and I hope you'll be there next week. Hare Krishna.